Hi everyone, welcome. Today is our first ever Education on Air conference, and today educators are hosting 46 Hangouts on Air, leading to discussions on a number of topics in education technology throughout the world today. We really do thank the presenters for giving their time to volunteering for this, and for all of you who are watching and participating. So to watch any of these sessions, simply go to the speaker's Google Plus page, and you can either watch from Google Plus or you can watch on YouTube. If you'd like to find the site with all of our presentations that are being hosted today, you can find that at site.google.com/site/EduOnAir/. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Molly. Molly Schroeder is an elementary technology integration specialist, and she's also a Google certified teacher and a Google Apps for EDU certified teacher, and she's going to talk to us today about some of her work that she has. So Molly, take it away.
All right, thanks Courtney, and thanks to everybody who's live here on our Hangout, and then also the people who are viewing. This has been a great day of learning for me as well. So today we're going to be talking about using Google Forms, and specifically sort of taking it to the next step by using branch logic within Google Forms. And then I'm going to talk just a little bit about a script that you may or may not know about towards the end as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up sharing my screen, and we're going to just sort of start with just a little information about Google Forms, kind of know a little bit about the what a Google Form is, how it looks, things like that. So here again is my information, molly.schroeder@flipededucation.com. @follow Molly on Twitter, plus follow Molly. Well, you know where I am on my stream for Google+, so I'm probably in one of your circles already. So first of all, just the basics. If you haven't created a Google Form before, a Google Form is a great place that you can collect information. So one of the best case uses is that my teachers at the very beginning of every year is they create a parent information form. And it can be found in your Google Docs or Google Drive. And when you click on the Create button, there's a Form button. It's a bit different than a spreadsheet in the way that the little icon looks. But what my teachers do is they, gather the name, the preferred email address. There's a little drop-down menu of whether you want to be, contacted by email or phone number, some hopes and dreams for your child, and then what are some volunteer opportunities that I could maybe contact you about. So any way that you like to collect information, whether it be about a survey or an application or a reflection, an evaluation, teachers use them as sort of gathering what the background knowledge of the students is on a certain topic, or using it as an exit ticket. What did you learn? Where are we at? How am I going to judge the information that was presented, and where as a teacher do I sort of see some formative assessments? So in the anatomy of a Google Form, when you do get to that Create button, there's a little information right here in which you add a title and you add, a little help text if you'd like. They give you 2 sample questions to start with, and so you get to sort of edit those questions. You have a place for a question and some sample text or some help text. And then these are the different types of questions that you can add. You can add a text question for something as simple as an email address or a name. Paragraph text just, presents the information in a way that it shares that you are interested in getting a little bit more information from the people. Multiple choice, that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today, is multiple choice questions, because they only have one correct answer. So multiple choice questions are different than checkboxes, because checkboxes are, you can have multiple answers. What are you going to do this summer? Swimming, biking, hiking, camping, and you might be doing more than one of those things. Choose from a list is exactly what you see right here. Choose from a list. A scale question is something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you feel about the book that we read? Or, did you like the book that we read? Or how confident do you feel about the test we're taking tomorrow? And then a grid question is a lot like a rubric. And so it's a lot about, you have the same similar descriptors on the top: strongly agree, disagree, mostly agree, and then you have different categories on the left-hand side. So we consider it a little bit like a rubric. Once you get done with the 2 sample questions that you have in a Google Form, up on the top there's something called Add Item. And we're going to be using that today as we go through, because not only do you add questions, but there's also another place where you add page breaks. And that gets really important when you're talking about the branch logic in Google Forms. Also, just in case you've missed it, and anytime you've created a form, there's also a place where you can do a theme. And the theme allows you to make your form look cute, put a fun border on it. It has a couple different fonts and things like that. So you can't make your own yet, but you can choose any of the ones that they have listed for you. I believe there are 97 different choices of the different themes that you can have. So that's sort of the basic anatomy of a form, how you build them. Once you have a form built with the questions, you can drag and drop and organize all around. So one of the words that I really like to use is automagically when we talk about Google Forms, because when I create a Google form, I am in the edit mode, but what actually happens is a live form is created, and then automagically the spreadsheet is created, and the spreadsheet has the questions as titles to the columns, and then as people fill out your form, a row is created based on the answers that people are filling out within your form. So in this particular form, this was a random survey, and I didn't ask for the people's name, so there are no names listed. So if you do want to collect information about people, you need to either ask for their name, or if you're in a Google Apps for Education account, you can actually automatically collect their usernames. So a couple different ways that people are using Google Forms. There are so many different ways. A lot of people, instead of a lab notebook, what if the teacher had a lab Google form? So you're collecting data. Then they have all the data from all the students. They could analyze it and graph it. So whatever data you collect in a spreadsheet can also be then manipulated, shared, analyzed, turned into graphs and forms. So that's a pretty fun way that people are using it as well, not just for the typical, surveys. A lot of teachers, too, are using it for formative and summative assessments. So, just as a little checking of your understanding at the beginning of math class or as an exit ticket, like I said, there's a lot of assessments that are being done. And this is using Google Forms as an assessment is what we're going to talk about sort of towards the end of the Hangout as well. So student surveys, collecting information. So anything that you need to collect information from parents or students, you could create a Google form, and then all of a sudden you have a spreadsheet that's automatically created for you. Online reading record, this is another example of how, if you have a Google form posted on your web page or in your LMS of Moodle or something, kids could go in and repeatedly fill out all the information of, the books or how many minutes they've read, and so now it's become a digital place where they record what they used to do in a reading response journal. People track discipline, so instead of having to go in and fill out one of those forms, there's a lot of information that just can be put into a Google form, and as long as people have the link to the Google form, they can fill out whatever they need to fill out. So is there anything that you guys as the group have used Google Forms for that you could share, just a quick idea of how you've used it in the classroom or in an educational setting?
I've got a Google, I deliver functional skills IT, but rather than assuming the kids didn't know how to use IT, because most of them know how to use it better than I do, I've assumed they know it all, so I've kind of given them an exercise, a bunch of exercises which they can go and complete in their own way. They then share the work back with me, and I kind of mark a checklist which is shared. And once they've got done alongside everything, I've got a form embedded on the front page for the class where they just enter themselves for the exam. And I've structured the questions to mirror exactly what the exams office want. So all I then need to do is cut and paste that information and send it on to the exams office, and it kind of saves me the hassle of having to go through and fill out a form and have separate spreadsheets in separate places. And plus it gives me a track of, so I've got 450 students in total, but by having that Google form I can then just kind of mark them as they've taken their exam, so I get an idea of, I know how many I started with, I know how many have entered for the exam, I know how many have passed, and I know how many have got a reset glance at the time. So
cool, thanks for sharing. That sounds great. It's, yeah, especially when you have a lot of students, the management of collecting information is really helpful.
Yeah.
Anybody else have an example?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, now we can't hear you.
we're doing a workshop with 2,500 students. We do this each summer. And this year we're doing a giant survey so that they can all supply us information and we can gather it in a neater format than ever before.
Excellent. That's a great idea. That's a lot of people filling out a survey. So one of the things that you came to this Hangout for was to learn about branch logic, and so how you can sort of take it to the next step. So I'll just kind of skip that one for a little bit. So what if those of you who are watching on the Hangout, or if you guys are live and can go to this website right here, it's a goo.gl, and it's case sensitive. What I've done is created a reading survey that has branch logic. So it actually gives you a chance to experience it if you'd like to. I will actually go there as well so that you can see it live, but at goo.gl /lowercase cm gs uppercase q. If you have a mobile phone, you can just kind of take a click at the QR code and it should bring you there as well. So I'm going to pop over to that Google form right now. And on that Google form, you can see that the very first question that I ask is, please answer the following question. So what's your name? So I'm going to just start typing my name. And then what the purpose of this Google form is going to be to help me, as a 5th grade student, select a book that's going to be appropriate for my interests. Okay, so the first branch logic question that I asked is, are you a boy or a girl? Now, depending on how they answer this question, will take them to a different page. So if you don't see exactly what I see, that's because you probably selected that you were a boy or made a different selection than me originally. So where you usually have the submit button, now you have a continue button. So I'm going to say I'm a girl. And now it says, what is your favorite genre of book? And now again, this has another branch question, because if I choose realistic fiction, it's going to take me to a page with realistic fiction books. If I choose mystery, it's going to take me to a page that has mystery books. And if I choose adventure, it's going to take me to another page. So for my example, I'm going to click on adventure, click on continue. And now these are the 3 adventure books that I've chosen for kids who are girls, who like adventure, and then they would choose one of these books. So this is actually the book that I'm reading right now called Divergent. It's very good. And what's different about the final selection that I'm making right now is as I click continue, the last question until I push submit is a prediction. So I say write a prediction you have about your book based on the title that you picked. You know, I think it is going to be about a girl living in another land. Okay? Now, what I've done with this form is, as you'll see you see how I made it, is every student comes back to this page. So every student lands on the last page of prediction. They all have chosen a different type of book based on the branches that were selected, and then they can push submit. So hopefully some other people have maybe gone and pretended that they're 5th grade students as well. Okay? But now, as I go back in, and now you can see that I have a spreadsheet form that's been created called EduOnAir Branch Logic Form. So, oh, good, excellent. Look at all these fun people that are taking this and pretending they're kids. So this is the spreadsheet that was collected about my branch logic. Okay, so I have a bunch of columns that aren't totally complete because based on if they were a boy, they jumped all the way to the boy questions. If they were a girl, they clicked all the way to the girl questions. But as you can see at the end where it says write a prediction about your book, okay, then everybody has filled that out because it was a required question. Okay, so the spreadsheet you can see has a couple different holes, but I can still sort and I can still kind of organize based on the answers that they've given. Now, you've seen the live form, and now you've seen the spreadsheet, but what really makes this into branch logic is actually when you go in to see the editing of this Google form. So I'm going to bring you into the editing version of this Google form so that you can see a little bit about behind the scenes how this was created. And you're not seeing it, so let me just pop it into one of these that you can see. Okay, one moment. Okay, so here you have the editing. So what I've done is I've gone in and titled, okay, and then I have my first couple questions. So of course I do all the questions in the exact same way. I go up to add an item and I add a question, okay. But once I start building the form, okay, I also have to create new pages, okay, and that's also in the add item. You would create a page break, okay. So wherever there's going to be a branch, you have to create a new page. And you actually have to create the page before you go back in and select where the branches are going to be. So I knew there was going to be a page of genre for boys. I knew there was going to be a page genre for girls, mystery for boys, mystery for girls, realistic fiction for girls, realistic fiction for boys. So there's a lot of sort of logic that you have to make when you're making the quiz, okay, or you're making the form. So once you've created all the pages and the choices that are going to be on each of the pages, you have to go back in and edit each of the questions. Now, you have to make sure that any question that's going to be branch has to be multiple choice, okay, because there's only one right answer. So as long as you have a multiple choice, you then get this little box, go to a page based on the answer. So you click on the go to page based by an answer, and then you get these boxes that are by each of the questions. So it says, if they answer the question boy, what page would you like them to go to? Well, I would like them to go to page 2, which is the genre for boys. Or if it's a girl, I can go to the girls, and I can go, I want to choose that I want it to go to page 3, which is genre for girls. Okay? Then I click on done. And I move on to the next question. So genre for girls. Okay? So what's your favorite genre of book? So now I edit these, and I've already made all the pages. So that's why it's really important to make the pages first, then go in and show the branch logic for each of the questions. Because the multiple choice, if it's a genre for girl and she chooses realistic fiction, I want it to go to realistic fiction for girls. So that's the name of the page that's already created. Okay? So as you're building it, it's really sort of important to build the pages and that sort of logic before you go in to the multiple choice questions. So what I just thought I'd do is, and then what I would do, hold on, last thing here is that, so at the end of once they're actually picking the book title, right? So this is where they've chosen a boy, and that they like realistic fiction, and now they get to choose one of the books. Once they choose one of the books, every single student has to go to sort of a landing page. So they have to have an end page that they land at. So that's why, at least in this one, it's, you know, going based on a prediction. That last page does not necessarily have to have a question on it, though, okay? Because what I could do, and I'll just save this one, is I can go in and add a page break at the very end that just says, thanks, you'll find out your book group soon, okay, and click done. And that's all the page has to be. So it could be some sort of like, you know, confirmation that you give to the students before they actually push the submit button at the very end, okay? So that's the branch logic. Is you have to use multiple choice questions, and you have to create a page structure. So let's take a few questions, if there's any questions from anybody.
I have a question, but it might be slightly off topic, so I'll say it, and you can ask me, you know, you can tell me if it's appropriate for this conversation or not.
Okay.
But we use Salesforce for education, and so part of that, my interest is actually taking this, what would ultimately be a spreadsheet, and turning it and porting it as a CSV file into Salesforce for education. Does anyone know if if there's a seamless way to do that, an easy way to do that, or do I just do it step by step?
Well, go ahead.
When I convert it into a CSV, what we need to get it over into Salesforce for Education is a CSV file. That's, I guess that's the question that I'm asking. Is this easily converted to a CSV file so I can port it into that tool?
Yes, so every spreadsheet, because a Google form turns into a spreadsheet, every spreadsheet under the file option has a download as, and then there's a CSV file.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Yep. And you can, you know, sometimes if I need to manipulate or print it out in a different way, I'll download it to an Excel file as well.
Got it.
You can always download it to PDF as well.
Oh, cool, cool. So you can massage it further before you need to port it elsewhere. Okay, cool.
Correct. Yep, exactly. Yep, good question.
I was just wondering, do you ever have any difficulties with a form like this where you have a student who maybe it's a girl and the choices that you're providing her are not book choices she's interested in? She's, you know, prefers the options that the boy track would have led her down. Do you ever have anything like that?
Sort of, you know, I mean, that's a philosophical question. So we did a gender study last year within boys and girls and what they prefer reading, and it actually finds out that the girls don't care who the main character is, whether it's a girl or a boy. Boys really do prefer reading books that have boys as main characters. So we actually did, and so each of the books that we put within our real reading survey were based on, this was a genre study, however it may not meet their exact reading level as well. So that's just one example of sort of building the form. There are different ways depending on what types of books or what you're focusing on for the reading content unit that, you know, I would definitely recommend, you know, putting out a lot of choices. These were the books that we had within those genres that were the options for those fifth graders.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Molly?
Yeah.
Could you also talk about what challenges you may have experienced if you made a mistake in creating your Google form and you decided you wanted to go back and add something, and how that would affect if you were going to show the summary responses? Because I've had some challenges at times where I will go back and add a question into a Google form after some people have already submitted to it. I go and I look at this summary of responses after I've added a new question in there, and it's thrown off the summary of responses. So any tips or hints that you have about that would be really helpful.
Yeah, you know, that is a tricky thing. So if I go in and create a new form, okay, and now I'm in this edit mode here, okay, and the edit mode will allow me, once I'm in this edit mode, okay, so I'm going to just do sample form, and the first question is going to be, you know, what is your favorite season? Okay, and then I'll do a multiple choice since we're talking branch logic, and we'll do summer, winter, fall, spring, okay, and I'll click done. Now my sample question 2, I'm going to edit, okay, and it's going to be based on, you know, the summer, winter, fall, and spring. I'm going to say, what do you most enjoy about the summer, okay? And I will do another multiple choice question, and we'll do swimming, biking, golf, or just reading outside on the deck. Now, again, I'm going to have to go in and go to add an item, and I'm going to do a different page. Okay, so the page break is going to be the summer page. And I'm going to click done. Now the summer page, I can drag and drop. Do you see how easy that was for me to drag and drop where that goes? So you don't have to go absolutely meticulously in order when you're doing this, because you can drag and drop with a caveat. Okay? You want to get to what you think is your most final form before you go and look at the spreadsheet. Okay? Because the minute you look at the spreadsheet, if you go back, you can go back and edit the form of this one and drag and drop, but the spreadsheet will not update any edits that you've made once you've looked at the spreadsheet once. Okay, so that's your biggest learning, is that you have to make sure that you are almost as confident. Okay, where did I go? Here I am in my edit form. You're almost 99.9% confident that it's in the correct order before you go look at the spreadsheet, because that's where the summary of responses or even the spreadsheet columns get messed up. Not messed up, they just won't go into order because you've looked at the spreadsheet once and then you've gone back to edit them. So it still will collect the information from whatever questions you edit or add, but it just won't be in the appropriate order that you thought. The people will go through the branch logic of the survey in the correct way, but your information on the spreadsheet is going to be the one thing that's a little bit wonky. Does anybody else have any thoughts for her on that?
Yeah, it's always important to and I actually use paper for this. It's one of the few things to lay out a survey and all your logic first and think it all the way through. Does two things. One, no matter which product you use to do a survey, you end up with that problem with your spreadsheet where your questions, if you don't, will end up in a wrong order. And two, you start ending up with a survey, if you just dive right in and design your survey, you end up with a survey that is just a mess. It's all, you got questions that don't make sense in that. And there's actually a real science to designing a correct survey. So one of the first basic steps is to make sure that you're lay out your survey. Scribble it out on a piece of paper. Make sure you know what all the branches that you want so that you can lay it out in a proper format. It'll make for a much cleaner survey, and then your spreadsheet looks well at the other end. So,
I have a question from our comment stream from someone who's watching. Sharon asks, do you see anything that the form lacks that someone considering switching over to Google Forms might want to consider?
Well, I think we're all desperate to be able to import an image into the question area. So if we could really use this for any assessments for things, it'd be so amazing to put in a math problem or put in a picture of a map or to put in a picture of something that students then could respond to. I know a lot of people are flipping the classroom using a lot of Google Forms as well. So what they'll do is take a Google site, and on one side of the Google site, they'll embed a YouTube video, and on the other side of the site, they will embed the Google form. And the students will watch the video and then fill out the form, and in the morning, the teacher can check the form and see where the students, see how the students responded to the questions about, where they could be, and she or he can put them into different groups, pay different attention, actually give different assignments, really differentiate the classroom based on that. So my dream, too, is like, what if you could put a video into the form, and then you just have one place that you're sort of building this in that you would get the information back from. So those are two of my dreams. I'd also love to be able to change the fonts and colors of some things myself and make my own, but those are just my dreams. Anybody else have good dreams?
Yeah, hi Molly. This could be a little bit off topic again, as was mentioned earlier, but I've got kind of a workaround for that in terms of having videos and Google Forms, which is, the slide rocket is in the apps marketplace and it's free to edu, and you can embed questions into that. That builds a spreadsheet. What I've played around with is using that so that each slide has either a video or a picture or whatever, or a short answer question, and then if you like, building a form within Google, which I don't give to the students, I give them the slide rocket presentation. They answer the questions in the slide rocket presentation. I then take the spreadsheet from behind that and put it into my Google form spreadsheet, and it still analyzes the data for me.
Okay,
I can still run Fluebrew against it and mark it and grade it if I had those fixed answers, or I can just kind of still get the same analytics back, but I can actually use the slide rocket presentation, combine that with videos, etc.
Excellent. Thanks for the tip. That's great. Some of the things that they were talking about, let me just share with you really quick too, is that the show summary of responses is really nice, and that was actually in my presentation here that I had. But once you get people to fill out your form, depending on the types of questions, in that same form there's show summary of responses, and based on the types of questions that you ask, Google will automatically create some of the spreadsheets or some of the questions into graphs for you, which we use constantly for data, real-time data for even student projects of, talking about decimals, percents, and fractions, and, making predictions on graphs and reading graphs. That's such a huge part of some of our standards. And so that's a fun way of getting some real-time data on those. Another part of the form that I didn't talk about, two different parts, is that one of the things that we love is the notification rules. And so you can have it notify you every time that a user submits a form. And you can have it do a daily digest. So that means if more than one person fills it out in a form, you get an email saying 6 people filled out your form today. Or you can get an email right away that somebody has filled out your form. And that those notifications are in, I always have to look for it just a little bit, in the Tools section here. And here's notification rules. And so when you click in the notification rules, I can choose when any changes are made, or if a user submits a form, email me right away and click Save. So I'm not going to do that for this one because this form might be up live for a little while for people to play with. So that's a great piece. Another thing that some people don't always know about too is that you can always, under More Actions, you can edit the confirmation. So usually when you submit a form, it says something like, thanks, your submission has been recorded. But if you are in the edit mode, you can go to More Actions and edit confirmation. And you could say, thanks for filling out our form. When you are finished, this is another one of my teachers uses it for sort of moving on to the next step. When you are finished, take out your reading book and, begin reading. So then, when they click submit, then they get that little piece of information, as opposed to just thanks, this has been submitted. So that's another piece of Google Forms that not everybody knows about as well. Okay, so let me just click in. Let me just do one more thing. We're actually going to finish in about 15 minutes, as I have another thing to be at, but I just want to talk quickly about if anybody has, how many of you in the Hangout have used Flubaroo? Yeah. Okay, a couple of people, not everybody. So I was just going to talk a little bit about that script of Flubaroo. So here are just some screenshots too, if you don't remember, about how I made it, the branch logic using the multiple choice, and then the different pages here. And that when you do finish, you get to choose the page that they land on. Okay, so this is going to be a little pop quiz. So here's one more thing. If people who are watching, all the viewers and/or people who are live in the Hangout, if you could go to this pop quiz, this is going to test your 4th grade knowledge of what are different kinds of sentences or punctuation that ends up on different kinds of sentences. So it's when you read it, pretend you're a 4th grader being quizzed on the different kinds of sentences. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that form, so I'm going to find it. And I'm going to open that spreadsheet, and I'm going to see that a few people have filled it out, and we'll see if there's anybody else that can sort of fill it out as we're working. I can broadcast, here it is again, goo.gl / lowercase d, capital E, capital K, capital T, and then the number 6. And I'll let you busily work on figuring out what kinds of sentences these are. All right, we're getting a few. Thank you very much for filling that out. It helps to have a little live demo here. So, and this is already run. Now, what you can do is once students have filled out some information and I actually, I'll do it with this one. So what you actually do is there's a script that you can run that's called Flubaroo. And Flubaroo allows you to self-grade. Well, it will allow the spreadsheet to self-grade and email the question, or email the answers and the grades to the students. So if you do ask for an email address from your participants, then it will actually email those students their grades. So one of the things that you do is when you're in the form and after the students have taken the form, you go to the Insert menu and you insert a script, okay? And the script that you're looking for is actually in the Education category, but you can skip that and just type in the word Flubaroo. So the Flubaroo, you install Flubaroo into your spreadsheet, and you have to do this for every single spreadsheet. So it doesn't just install it for every single one in your Google Docs. You have to do it for each person. And a guy named Dave created this script, and so he just he really works hard to make it work well for education too. He used to work for Google. So it says authorization required, and I'm going to say, yep, I authorize that. So now it says, okay, you can run the script. So I can close this. Now you'll notice that if before you install Flubaroo, this little button of Flubaroo was not there before. And so when you go to Flubaroo, you can choose to grade the assignment. Right now it says regrade the assignment because I've already done it before. But now there are new people that have taken the quiz. Okay, so I authorize it again. Okay, and now, okay, I'm authorizing it. So now I regrade the assignment, and it will replace my existing grades, and I say yes, that's fine. And what it does is on the bottom is it creates a new spreadsheet that has the grades of all of the people that took the quiz. Okay? So this looks like actually was the kids from the class. So this is actually the wrong form. I'm so sorry about that. So here are the student submissions, and then we have the Lori and Rob. This is what it ends up doing, is it ends up with a spreadsheet of all of the different questions, okay, and then whether you assigned them a point or not for the questions, you go through and you decide how many points you want to give. Since I'm regrading this, it actually didn't walk me through the whole thing. And what it suggests is that you as the teacher have to take the quiz because it asks you which response is the correct response. Mm-hmm. So the teacher takes the quiz and says, okay, this is the number one correct, this is the answer key, and then it grades all the kids off of that answer key. And then in Flubaroo, what you can do is you can email the grades to each of the students, and it puts an email, and you actually get to have you have a little chance that you can add a message to all of the students that are going to be going there. So again, this was a previously created form, and I actually just copied it from that, so that's why you're seeing these different students that are in there as well. So, and then you could email the message and continue, and then it emails the grades to all of the students. So Flubaroo is a really awesome script that you can run on any one of the forms that you use to collect information for formative assessment with the students. So any questions or uses, ways that you've used Flubaroo in your classroom? I have teachers that use it all the time. I mean, all of those little formative assessments that you do all the time too, it's such a fabulous way. You can actually, too, do some conditional formatting on any of the graphs that you have. So this is, let's go back to our branch logic form. And you can start marking up your spreadsheet, okay, by going into, and I always sometimes have to look for this just a little bit, with the conditional formatting. Does anybody know which one it's in? Format, probably. Conditional formatting, that would make sense, right, that it's in there. So the conditional formatting says that if the text contains the word girl, okay, then I want the background, okay, to be pink, and then I save the rules, okay. And then on your form, I actually didn't do the right columns, so hold on, let me select the appropriate column. So in this column in particular, when I click on it, I've now highlighted, and I can go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and do the same thing.
We're not seeing your screen.
Do you mind sharing your screen?
No, not at all. Well, then you didn't get to see my little mess up then, did you? Okay, so let me go back here. So now I have the column highlighted, okay, and I go to Format, and I go to Conditional Formatting. And if the text contains the word girl, okay, then I want the background to be pink, and I save the rules, and now it reads my spreadsheet column, and it sort of chooses out, and so I could add then, in the formatting, conditional formatting, I can add another rule that if the text contains the word boy, then I want you to change the background to blue, and now I can sort of start. And a lot of the times what people do is if the value of your grades is less than like 40%, you could highlight which students then have that grade level of less than 40%. And so it helps you to sort of pinpoint some of the things, you know, that you can color conditional format some of those. So that's what I have. The EduOnAir website has all of the information from the presentation that I was doing today. One more thing that I just was sort of talking about too is that I've been a part of a bunch of different groups that are planning some Google Apps for Education summits around the country this summer. And so there's going to be one in California, Great Plains in Lincoln, Nebraska, Boulder, Colorado, and then the Wisconsin Dells. Where you can come and learn from Googlers. Googlers supports these. They send people to do keynotes. They have engineers that come to do these as well. And then there's just a lot of Google certified teachers and Google Apps for Education certified trainers that are going to be presenting. So you can sign up for all of these on the website of tinyurl /GAFE Google Apps for Education Summits. Or be in touch with me and I can give you any additional information that you want, or if you feel like you might be a good presenter at one of those two, I'm the one who's sort of organizing all the presenters to come in and share some of your Google expertise for that.
Molly, would you mind actually typing that URL in the chat channel, and that way I can copy it directly? That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for the participants in our Hangout, and especially thank you to Molly for hosting us today. You have her Google Plus information after watching this, and if you'd like to go back later, this is all on YouTube, so you can watch it again if there's anything else. But thank you all for coming, and thanks, Molly, for hosting us.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. It was fun.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
bye-bye.
very much.